group members are
Anjali, Sandy, Abby,
and Will, and we are going to talk about the
evolution of Chinese men's images in the West movies.
Okay, so we want to tell you why we wanna do this topic. So recently, there has been a transformation in Chinese American men's images in Western movies, and Chinese men are no longer seen as underclass like laborers and coolies. But their image is not an overnight change. Hence, our purpose to look into the evolutions of Chinese American men's images in Western movies and prove that the transformations in their images will not impact the movie's box office and rating negatively. And what we have found so far is from 1840s to nowadays, the image of Chinese American men has experienced three main transformations. And the contributing factors in these transformations include not only Westerners' rendering of the Chinese characters in the movie, but also the US policies, the Chinese socioeconomic status, and the rise of China. So in 1840s, a mass Chinese immigrants were recruited by the capitalists, came to the US, and participated in the gold mining and railroad constructions. And those Chinese men were seen as disposable laborers at that time because they were cheap. And the US government also made an immigration policy which prohibited those Chinese men from getting married with Asian women and bringing their families to the US. And the Chinese, in accordance to the US government's attitude toward the Chinese immigrants, the media has portrayed the Chinese men as feminine, childish, and sexually deviant, just to help the government rationalize their unfair immigration laws. And the most representative movies in this era are The Max of Fu Manzhou and The Charlie Chan in London. And Fu Manzhou is a personification of yellow perils because at that time Chinese immigrants expanded in the US community, taking away the job opportunities and threatened the locals. And he is depicted as a cunning villain in the movie who wants to destroy the world by violence and violence, and who is also lacking of virility. And likewise, Charlie Chan was portrayed as a man who walks like a woman and talks in a weird accent. And these two characters obviously are Asian, but those who perform these actors are not Asian at all. Rather, they are foreigners, and they just try to yellow up themselves just to make themselves look like a Chinese man. And in 1970s is considered to be the turning point of those Chinese men in Western movies, because at that time martial art films performed by Chinese American become popular, especially after the movie Enter the Dragon came out, because this movie made Bruce Lee become an overnight sensation. But since then, there is new stereotypes of Chinese American men came out that say those Chinese actors are often connected to Kung Fu Master, and the actor after Bruce Lee are even referred to someone that have sexual appeal. Such as there's a famous quote which says, Jackie Chan is a funny martial artist, but are you going to sleep with him? And nowadays, the Chinese American are portrayed totally different. They are portrayed as academic excellence and financial success because of modern minority and the rise of China. So, what is modern minority? Modern minority is means that those Chinese American, they have the advantage of mastering two languages, and so they can have a higher socioeconomic status. And recently, China also become the second largest movie market for Hollywood. So the producers and filmmakers of the Hollywood movies, they don't want to disappoint those Chinese in both in China, the mainland and the U.S.
Hi, I am Jolie. And just as what Will has said, recently Chinese Americans have higher socioeconomic status, and China also become the second largest market for Hollywood's movie. So now I would like to give some evidence to prove those statements. For the socioeconomic status, we will analyze the real median household income by races in the US. As you can see, the chart from US Census Bureau shows that Asians in the United States have the highest median income among other races in the states, including the white, the Hispanic, and the black. Asians' median income is 43% higher than overall median, and the white is only 10% higher. Thus, no matter from the chart or the accurate number, it is clear to say that the Asian image is no more like what it had been showed on the screen. Besides high socioeconomic, there are two other reasons why Chinese Asian become increasingly important in the movie industry. First, we can analyze box office revenue between the United States and China. In the left chart, the US box office revenue from 2012 to 2019 are nearly stable. However, box office revenue in China increased rapidly, even in 2020, when the COVID-19 hit film industry. They exceeded the US box office revenue. This is really incredible and also shows the power of China market. After realizing the power of the market in China, we also check the movies in China box office market share. In the right chart, we found out that from 2018, the proportion of Hollywood movies in China have been steadily slipping. In 2020, the proportion of Chinese film even got 80.1%, and the Hollywood movies declined to 16.8% only. This situation can be easily reflected the changes in tastes over the past years. Chinese audience nowadays are more willing to enjoy domestic movies but not Hollywood movies, which usually show the advantages of the Western. Thus, according to the two reasons, box office revenue and box office share in China, US film industry, especially Hollywood, started to be more focused on what Chinese audience like and try to cater the Chinese market as well. And this trend might show more positive images of Chinese American. From the personality of the main actor, he acts as a tall, wealthy, and handsome man in the film, which is totally different from the movie we used to watch. In this movie, the main actor's name is Nick Young, and his family is extremely rich in Malaysia. Moreover, he is charming and handsome. One of the scenes in the movie is that when Nick Young back to Malaysia, almost every girl tried to get close to him and know his girlfriend so that they can further involve their relationship and let them break up and become Nick's new girlfriend. Therefore, from the storyline, we can know that Nick is a man that everyone wants to be together. Rather than the movie that Chinese film which acting as tricky man or low status role such as laundryman in the movie. Crazy Rich Agent is a positive turning point to Chinese in movie industry. And it shows that Chinese social economic status is higher because from the movie we can know that most of people in Malaysia respect Nick's family and they have huge power so that they can do whatever they want in the movie. From the storyline, raise Chinese status and that's the stereotype of what Chinese can perform in movie industry. On the other hand, from the movie indicate that Chinese can also play whole Chinese cast romantic movie and white people also willing to watch the film and seems as an elimination of white supremacy and remove the thought that only white people are competent in these kinds of movies.
Okay, next let's look at the IMDb ratings. And first is the mask of Fu Manzhou. In this picture, we can see the 4 points. First is the age 45%, and the score and males and females, and also the US user and non-US user. And the second movie is the Charlie Chan in London. Also, they have 4 point, and we can find something in those two pictures. First is the males more than the females, and US users more than the non-US user.
We are wondering, does this transformation influence the box office or rating of the movie? And our answer is no, because Crazy Rich Asian received about 240 million US dollars, and it is also one of the highest grossing romantic comedies of all the times. So in this chart, we can find that there is a growth in female audience, and regarding the non-US users, the number is still larger than the US users. But there's a difference in the female audience, that the numbers of female audience of Crazy Rich Asian has surpassed the movies we have mentioned previously.
The change in the image of Asian actors rose the score. IMDb rating score grew a lot from the first to the second time the image of Chinese actors changed. And second is US user and non-US user view are getting closer and closer. US user tend to score higher than the non-US user. However, as the non-US user grow, the score do not change much. And even the gap between the two is getting smaller and smaller.
The change in the image of Asian actors has had a positive impact. Acceptance by US users still varies little, but acceptance by non-US users and female users has increased, and we can see this positive impact in the ratings. In conclusion, we can confirm that the transformations of Chinese actors in Western movies can bring positive impact, and it will not affect the box office and ratings of the movies negatively. Thank you for listening, and this is the end of our presentation.